Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. It is right now. You are right here. My name is Manuel, and it's my pleasure to welcome you. Today is day 13 of the show, Lucky 13, and I have to congratulate you for making the best decision of the day to spend some time with me. Let's get started. This weekend, two major news stories. One is the bitter cold that has swept the country, making its way even down here to sunny Florida, where I happen to find myself at the moment. And this morning when I woke up, it was a balmy 25 degrees. Sunny, beautiful, 25 degrees. So as I thought about today's show and what to talk about, I said, why don't we go ahead and tackle a hot topic? And that is the other big news item of the weekend, going viral all over the internet, and that is the latest trove of millions of documents released from the so-called Epstein files. There's so many angles to look at this from. I wasn't sure which approach to take. As you know, I like to look at things from different angles. I like to look at things from different frames. And I do try regularly to step away from myself and look at it in ways perhaps that I have not looked at before or others have not. So I'd like to share with you some thoughts. Perhaps we'll call it a thought experiment that maybe you haven't thought about. A little bit of recent history. It is hardly a secret that President Donald Trump, from the time that he descended the golden escalators at Trump Tower to announce that he was running for president, has been the nonstop target, some would say obsession, of the Democratic Party, its leaders, its members, its voters, its donors, and its allies in the media. Some would call them propagandists, but we'll say they're allies in the media. And they have done everything in their power to thwart him, to stop him, and even to imprison him. They have declared that he is an existential threat, enemy number one, not just of the United States, but of humanity. Many, in all seriousness, would say that he is the most evil, vile man to walk the face of the earth today. Beyond the devil incarnate, something worse. So we have seen that they truly have left no stone unturned, no dirty trick unplayed in trying to bring him down. And I appreciate that if you're coming from where they are, that of course you would do whatever it takes to bring down this man. That's logical. That makes sense. That I can understand. Whether I agree with them or not, I can understand that action. So it seemed odd to me that we know now that they have had access to these documents for years now. Years they've had access to these documents. And yet, the same people who went out of their way to impeach him twice, including the second time when he was already out of office, who then proceeded to bring criminal charges against him 4 times, meaning that whether you thought about it or not, he was under arrest 4 separate times. The people who got that infamous mugshot, the people who were pushing to have him locked away for 700 years, and the people who, some would say, I'm not saying this, but some would say, directly or indirectly, were the cause of 2 assassination attempts on him. In other words, to reiterate what I had already stressed, they would do anything to stop this man, anything. And yet they, who had access to all these documents, to all these accusations, never mentioned even one. That strikes me as odd. That strikes me as very odd. And one could draw the conclusion that people who are willing to use any weapon against somebody, but did not use this one, is because they knew that it would not actually work. Why would it not work? Because it was not actually true. But you say, Manuel, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you have millions of documents and constant mentions of this man's name. But when you look when you don't get told what it is that's there, you find that the mountain of accusations, the mountain of wild scenarios, come from anonymous tips that were brought in just before the 2016 election, just before the 2020 election, and just before the 2024 election. Imagine that. A man hated by millions of people who are told daily that this man is an existential threat, that he must be stopped no matter what. That such a man might inspire people to bring anonymous tips of the most vile, horrible, even sci-fi horror movie level, outrageous, disgusting behavior. Anonymous tips. And then these same tips, that any single one of them would have ended this man's political career and resulted in his incarceration for life. Somehow, none of them stuck. And we're expected to believe, though, that they're all true, according to some people. This defies logic. I'll just put it very simply this way. A people who have expended millions upon millions of dollars, thousands and thousands of hours of manpower, put themselves on the line and their careers to bring down Donald J. Trump. Do you really believe that if they had an atomic bomb, that they wouldn't drop it? And if they don't drop it, do you really think that it was an atomic bomb at all? This is a lesson beyond the topic we're discussing, which is simply to say, if something doesn't pass the smell test, then you got to back up and really wonder, is it true? You have to say, really? Really? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Furthermore, a very important lesson, something that we all have to understand. Whenever you see a news item, whenever you hear something that confirms your worst biases about somebody, perfectly confirms it, is what's known as being too on the nose, a phrase that was a favorite of the late Scott Adams. When you hear something that's too on the nose, that's exactly what you want to hear, that's when you have to doubt the most. That's when you should be the most skeptical. Because when something is too on the nose, it probably means you're being led by the nose. And that's the most important lesson I want to impart to you today. All right. That's enough for today. We'll continue tomorrow. And as always, be useful.